I'm holding the clicker. It's my go.
Sorry.
Hello. Hi, I'm Mike. I'm a senior product manager at Planet Sport. And I've not pressed the clicker. There we are. There I am. So for my sins in my past life, I was a recruiter. Spent a lot of time out in Berlin building a product community, which led me to becoming a product manager. And for the last 2 years, I've been at Planet Sport. And for the last 18 months, I have been focusing on all things mobile apps and have effectively become the SME for mobile apps in the business. There you go.
Cool, thank you. Hi, I'm Gabby. So over the years, I've built mobile apps, led mobile teams, led a mobile practice in a consultancy. This consultancy actually, when it was still Infinity Works, and I've been and still am the CTO of a successful mobile app startup company. So while I was working on all of these apps, I noticed that the leaders that sat above those apps would often do kind of weird things, make bad decisions, and I just couldn't understand like why they would do that. It was really frustrating. But then I realized that mobile and how you build it is fundamentally different to web and back end. And those leaders just didn't have that insight. So fast forward to today, and I run my solo consultancy, Making Mobile Simple, where I work with tech leaders who aren't mobile specialists, and I help them build successful mobile apps and run effective mobile teams. And I've been working with Planet Sport for a little over a year now on their mobile app strategy.
Do that each time. So, who is Planet Sport? That's the question I usually hear.
Who is Planet Sport?
Exactly. Who is Planet Sport? So we are I'm about to. So we're a sports media publisher. We have over 25 million unique monthly visits, and we have a portfolio of 7 major titles. You like that? So we've got Team Talk, Planet Rugby, Love Rugby League, Tennis 365, Football 365, Planet F1 and Planet Football, as well as being a web media publishers. We have a B2B arm, service and sports media, betting and gaming, all things sports, sort of driving tech and editorial together, and also supporting from an ad tech perspective. And who is Team Talk specifically? So Team Talk is the #1 football transfer site in the country. We've got over 8 million uniques coming to us each month, and it focuses on breaking transfer news. It originally started as a phone line. I don't know if anyone here is old enough to remember that. We used to put your money in, ring it. And then it became a website, and now we are building an app. We might be a little bit late to the party, but we're here.
So when I first started working with Planet Sport, they were a little bit fearful of apps. So not really if they would be able to build them, but if they would cannibalize their web traffic. So they had a first version of the app, like a very basic version. And they were really worried that they would release it and that everyone in the world would use it, and then they'd lose all the web traffic and all the revenue that came from that. So they were thinking, if you build it, they will come. And unfortunately, I guess a few of you here will already be aware that's not usually how things go with mobile. So in that kind of early stage, 2 things were clear to me. First of all, in the longer term, we're going to have to build a strategy that aligned web with mobile. But before worrying about any of that, what we were going to do with all of those users, we needed an app that people would want to use, and we needed a strategy to grow that user audience.
So, agency dependency to in-house momentum. We're a publishers first, we're tech second. Planet Sport's DNA is in editorial, and it's historically been focused on content and not code. So a lot of our tech delivery has been outsourced, which has been great. It's got us to this point, but when it came to building mobile apps, it was really holding us back. The Team Talk app project had started 18 months before I even joined Planet Sport. There wasn't a great deal of business engagement. The app had kind of happened to the business with not really much input from them, so there was a little bit of back and forth there. And because of this, effectively outsourced agency model. It was being built in a black box, so there was very little sort of clarity. Almost accountability was a big issue. We weren't getting things done, so we needed to shift to a more product-led approach. We wanted to build a cross-functional team, so we set about doing that. So we pulled together an iOS engineer, an Android engineer, back-end engineer, and some QA, and we built it lean and small and focused to get us going. And from that, MADS was born. I always love a little acronym, so here we are, the Mobile Application Development Squad. And what I really focused on there was, we brought this small team together, and then what? It was really about setting up some clear processes, shared rituals, lots and lots of open communication, and we spent a lot of time and effort trying to nurture a squad where we're all kind of moving as one. Very different to how things had been built previously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can see we work together very well.
Very cordial.
So we want to build an app. As you can imagine, I hear this quite a lot in my line of work. And PlanetSpot knew that they wanted apps, but they didn't really have a joined up vision of why. And it's super important to know why you're building an app. So if you don't know why, you don't know who you want to attract as users, how you want those users to behave in your app, and really what sort of app to build. So we needed to set a strategy around that, and I thought that would be quite straightforward, really, but I was wrong. So the different stakeholders, there were stakeholders in publishing, in marketing, and in product, and they all had different views, all different views around why they wanted to build the app, how they wanted to build it, what they wanted to build, and how it would be commercially valuable for the business. So I ran some workshops and managed to align the team around a very, very basic strategy on one of my very basic Miro boards. So essentially, growing the audience of the app, and then using the app features and notifications to provide value to users and increase loyalty. And then step 3, profit, I think is missing off that picture. But then in the future, though, that step 3, how we were going to drive the value from the audience, we would come back to that. But the important thing was that we now had a joined up picture, the basics of the why in place, so we could get on with building the app that was going to support that vision.
So I inherited a fairly basic app. We didn't really know how it had been built, so we spent quite a bit of time sort of trying to dig out the skeletons out of the closets. And it was fairly basic. I mean, it had a news feed, it had some basic data points, but from a transfers perspective, we've got all the transfer data coming from Opta. But it was pretty obvious that wasn't going to give us stickiness. We weren't going to, you're going to come in, have a look and go, cool, and probably never use it again. So what did we do? Hopefully this goes well. It's the fancy slide. So we've got news in the app, which comes from our sports site. We've got a transfer centre, which then houses the rumours. It also has done deals. Again, this is all updated as soon as the Opta data's there, which is the gold standard. As you can see, everything's in there. Didn't realise it took so long to do this bit. We've got a match centre, as you would expect with a football app. So we've got all the games set up, we've got the calendar, we've got spoiler alerts, so you hate it when you're out doing something and your phone's going and you don't want to know the goals, so that's what we built in there. And then here is the reason to sign up and tell us a little bit more about your personalised home screen, bringing you everything about your teams. So we've got the next match, or the match that's in play, we've got the transfers and the carousel, and then we've got all the news coming through, and we've got more to be planned. And just like magic, we've got what's coming up next. So we've got player data cards, we've got spoiler alerts part 2, which is to allow you to just mute your match. You might want to know what's going on elsewhere, but you're watching your game whatever, you've got dodgy streams, whatever it might be. You don't want the goal alerts to ruin it for you. And we're also bringing in live match animations, so if you can't see the match, they're quite cool. Kind of brings it to life a little bit more than just a few tweets and a bit of commentary. So those are some of the key things that we're looking at bringing in to increase stickiness.
So we've got this whole backlog of features that are going to create this engaged audience, but the next piece of the jigsaw is how do we measure the impact of those features? So the team were really used to marketing analytics to understand how their advertising campaigns were going, the marketing campaigns, and web analytics so that they could understand which articles or which content had the most traffic. But mobile's a little bit different here, and we needed a product analytics tool so that we could measure the feature that Mike and his Mads team were making, work out if they had a positive effect or a negative effect, and learn and iterate. So I pitched Mixpanel to the team. So it's just a tool that I'd used on other products. And I really liked it because it's super easy to integrate and it's really easy to get meaningful insights out of. It wasn't an easy sell because it's not a cheap tool. And the thing with it is that the cost grows with the audience, and the team was still a little bit cautious that this app was going to have a huge audience out of the gate. But I managed to convince them to give it a try, and we quickly saw, well, a couple of things. One is that the audience was starting small, so that cost was starting small as well, but also that Mixpanel would be a key tool to help us grow that audience. And this is just some of the pretty graphs that we kind of got out of the box. Obviously, we've built up some time and some stats, but this is the kind of thing that Mixpanel shows us.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that's really helpful having this is we're going from opinions and qualitative assumptions to actual with data-led, like we did a thing and that happened, and it's kind of irrefutable, and it's really helping to explain what we're trying to achieve with other stakeholders. Sorry, Tom.
That's all right.
Creep onto your slide there.
Do that on
So Gabby's come in, she's sorted us all out, we've got a plan, we've got analytics in there. I'm saying to publishing and to marketing, like, let's go, let's actually tell some people about this. We've done a soft launch, it's been, just sat in the store, no one really knows it's there. Yeah, so I'm getting ready to launch, and yeah, it all kind of went wrong. And this is your slide.
Right, so without wishing to be too smug, I knew there was a problem coming. So for the last couple of months before this push, this was, what was this, December last year? That kind of time? Yeah, so
December.
Yeah, so every week I've been checking in with the team. How's it looking for launch? Yeah, it's good. Are we on track for the date? Yeah, we're on track for the date. And really it was all going far too smoothly, and I was getting suspicious. And it started to become clear that just a couple of things weren't quite working. Notifications were a bit off, but yeah, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. And meanwhile, future feature development was continuing. So the key stakeholders really for this push were the marketing team. So they had to set everything up. They were paying out of their budget. They were going to bear the brunt if things didn't go very well. And they were starting to get a little bit nervous, as was I. So I set up a list of quality gates. I called them quality gates. What were the things that the team needed to be confident in to go ahead with the marketing push? And here's another of my now infamous lo-fi Miro boards. So I listed everything out that we needed to do, so it was transparent. Everyone could see the gates at a glance. Everyone could see what we needed to do to pass, and we could see how we were progressing against the list, just to give like the marketing team that confidence that they needed. And we were making reasonable progress through that, but then the notifications issue popped up again, and focusing on that uncovered that parts of the back-end architecture really weren't fit for purpose. And looking at this man Paddy in the front row, who was really kind of key and like really pushing back on that and discovering all these problems for us. So I told Mike that feature development needed to stop. And according to my notes here, I might have phrased it a little bit more strongly than that at the time. But essentially, future features are worth nothing if the basics aren't working. And the more we were piling in on top of that kind of foundation on sand, the worse it was getting and the more we're looking at. So I said, right, we've got to stop. And Mike really didn't look happy at that point, but he stopped development.
Did. And yeah, so the whole thing is, it's a transfers app, and in my mind, and which has been confirmed in the data now, is people look for transfers when it's transfer window. So we had a golden opportunity to try and really give the app a good push leading up. So the whole thing was, are we ready? Can we get something decent out sort of mid-December? Tell all our fans about it, and then they'll use it through January. But obviously everything broke, and that was me. Just having to go cap in hand and tell people we can't do it, it's not good enough. So yeah, we did have a problem, and we did stop development. But with that, we paused, we reassessed, and Jesus Christ, we rebuilt, didn't we, Paddy? We literally had to go right down to the foundations and just, like, if it was a house, we were really down to the absolute fundamental stuff right at the bottom and rebuilding it all from back up, and then documenting absolutely everything. So we've got a real clear understanding of, like, a thing happens, how did it happen, where, what's firing that notification, everything to do with that. So it was very painful and quite stressful, but being all philosophical, it was the right thing to do. We've come out the other side, and it didn't kill me, and it certainly did make me stronger, I think. So yeah, where are we now? This is you.
This is me, yeah.
Yeah.
So up until that point, I felt like the team had really just been spinning their wheels. So they were building out features, but not really getting anywhere because of all these underlying problems. So they kept having to go back to the start. And Mike was really at his lowest point now. But I was really happy. I was super happy, not just because Mike was sad, but although that was quite nice. But
Thanks, mate.
but from my point of view, this was the inflection point for Planet Sports app journey. So the team had learned some really good lessons, hard lessons, but good lessons about how to do it right and how to do it wrong. They'd fixed that underlying tech, and they now had this foundation to build on. So that was great news. But it wasn't plain sailing yet. So the percentage of iOS users plummeted. And when you see a graph that looks like that, it's rarely a good thing, unless you try to minimize something. So iOS users were going down, Android was fine, iOS was going down, and I spent a lot of time in the metrics trying to work out what it could be. And finally, we realized it was an integrated login component that we had that wasn't working properly with signing with Apple. So there were a few other things as well, but that was the main thing. So at first we thought, well, let's bring in quite a switch for the business, but let's bring in a different third-party auth service. But then product made quite a bold pivot. So I had a couple of really good sessions with Nick, the Chief Product Officer. If you want to wave to the crowd, there he is. Sorry, Nick.
Hi, Nick.
And I really pushed him to consider what direction the app should go in next. And as a result of that, Nick developed what he called the App Manifesto for Planet Sport, which was a document to give really clear guidance to their team on what to build, how to approach it, and how to measure the success. So this brought much greater clarity to my mind than we had with that original very basic strategy. So it's like strategy 2.0 for the team. And the North Star was set as, did you put that animation on there? It's been messing with my slides. So the North Star.
That star is a lot cooler than yours.
All right. The North Star was, this is the bit where we start fighting Luke that you might have to cut. The North Star was set as a happy, engaged user base. So engaged users using the app at this stage were much more important than getting those sign-ups. So we ripped sign-up out. We simplified and moved on so that we could get the app out, get it marketed, and get that feedback sooner than if we'd carried on down that road. There you go.
Cheers. So, yeah, marketing. They were adamant that they wanted a Just, which is an attribution tracking platform, and it's actually quite helpful. So because we've got already a lot of eyeballs looking at us, like we should use that. Usually you're starting from zero with an app. You've got to do a lot of marketing. Certain apps will throw a lot of money at acquiring users. We're fortunate, with Team Talk, we've got 8 million people coming to our site every month. I'm not saying we're going to have 8 million people on our app, which would be nice, but we're going to have a lot of people seeing. And with the help of Adjust, we've managed to put smart banners on every page. Wherever you land onto our site, homepage, an article from Discover. Discover's the main one, actually. It's pretty good. We can see what's going on. And actually, we're still getting a lot of organic. If you put football transfers, we're up there. But we can see the marketing push and the efforts of the marketing team is starting to pay dividends. So that's good. Because we've got growth.
Yay! So
Quite a lot of growth.
finally, we've got a clear vision of what we're building and why. We've got a relatively stable app, and then this marketing nudge. The user numbers started to grow slowly but surely. And every week I was excitedly telling the team that we'd hit a new milestone. Like every week there's me going, oh, we've hit 1,000, we've hit 2,000, we've hit, and it was going up and up and up. So since that underlying platform rebuild, right back over there on the left, we've got, let me just get this right. So yeah, so the weekly active users has gone up by a really impressive 12 times. So the numbers are still kind of modest for an app audience, but they are significant. We've got a good number of people on there. So what's most exciting to me about this is that we can now see the trends on the numbers. So we kind of touched on this earlier, but we can see that, say, a change in the notifications causes a change in session numbers. And for me, that's really exciting because it means that users are engaging. They're engaging with what we're giving them, and that we can make changes to the app that's going to cause changes in user behavior and audience numbers. So that's a really strong signal that continued investment in the apps for Planet Sport, it makes commercial sense. So we've kind of proven that hypothesis that the apps are gonna be good. Yes.
Yes.
There seems to be two slices on that graph in March and May. Did they correspond with a change that you made? The numbers go up at each one of those points, so or is that just the screenshot you got there?
I think they do, and we we were tracking what was going on there. I think at one of probably the earlier point was probably when the marketing nudge happened, or was that
so
that
the
earlier?
banner was just on the homepage at one point.
Yeah.
When we were not too sure about the stability of the app, but once we put it across all the article pages, that boosted things. So that's definitely one of them.
Yeah, so we can see that things changed and things happened. And we also saw a big uplift for the end of the season as well, as more people were getting more interested on seeing the live scores. And then that's carrying over into the transfers. Now we're in transfer season.
Yeah, and we've hit last week twice. We broke our sort of daily active user record. So yeah, that's all good. It's working. People are coming. I'm in a job.
And I'm saying things like transfer window and end of season,
Yeah.
like I know about football.
She knows what a transfer window is. So looking to the future, we've got the app out there. We've got a good audience. We are currently working on integrating an exciting monetization stream, which is a video-driven advertising platform, and it's a world first. So we're quite lucky to have been chosen to showcase that and see how that works. We've spent a lot of time evaluating Flutter and React Native, a lot of back and forth. So I was pushing for Flutter, then React Native. What's the new stupid framework name called?
Liquid Glass.
No, that's happened. No, the React Native, really cool framework or something. Well, they called it something good now.
I don't really know what you're talking about now.
Anyway.
We may have had a talk on it, so be
Yeah.
with your opinion.
Yeah, so anyway, we've gone with React Native, and we are going forward with what we're calling the MDK. So we're working with the guys at Dozer, and we're trying to build a componentized toolkit to basically give us speed to market and consistency, both in sort of quality and sort of the look and feel of what a Planet Sport app looks like. And then, when that's done, we've got 6 or 7 more apps we could be building. So the future is looking good. Questions?
Hi there. With having to take the authentication service out of the app,
Yeah.
is that something that you've already replaced, or is it still, users just log on, well, I guess, do they log in?
No.
Authentication
No.
service.
So we had the sign up, sign in service, which also then managed preferences. We had to take that all out, and effectively you get a Firebase token to confirm your preferences because there's no sign up. So everyone's kind of an anonymous user, but when you go through the onboarding and say, like, I'm an Arsenal fan, you get a Firebase token assigned to you. So that's how we get around that. With regards to moving forward, the MDK, we've decided to use Stitch. That is going to be baked into the MDK. So every time an app is born out of that toolkit, Stitch is already there, out of the box and configured. I think we're going Google, Apple, because we have to, and I think Facebook for the time being. We're just keeping it nice and lean.
Nice. So they've still got like a bit of personalisation.
Yeah. Just because we took the sign in didn't mean you didn't get the personalisation. And actually, the home screen that you saw, if you just had the app and you hadn't selected anything, it's all kind of blurred, and it sends you to the settings page and kind of forces you to select something. Otherwise, like, how can we send stuff to your home page?
What does MDK mean?
Mobile development kit. Yeah. Trick question.
So, more of a question really in terms of how sports generates an income. Because do you have to pay to view these results, and then how do you sign up? Is it free?
So the sites are primarily driven through ad revenue. There is subscription offering there now. Right now for the app, outside of the video advertising platform that we'll be bringing in, there's no paywalls. We want to grow an audience. There's no point charging 0 people. So, we'll see how things develop. I think, subscriptions and what people are willing to pay for these days is always changing, and I think, we've got great content, but we've got lots of other cool stuff in the armoury that we could bring to people. So we'll just have to see where the users take us and try and be a little bit data-led and find cool ways to keep our users coming to us. And if they want to pay us, then we'll have to give them a really good experience to do that, I think.
Yeah, also we do have a little bit more than 0 users.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got considerably more than 0.
But what about if we paywalled?
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah.
If we paywall, we would have
Exactly.
fewer.
Bit of a dick question, but if the kind of main, I guess, like, thing that you were going for was with the notifications, the transfers and stuff like that, how comes you didn't, or did you, I guess, actually, I'm making an assumption there, but did you make an investigation into, like, web notifications?
I don't get the question.
And so instead of building an app, why not just add notifications to your website so that you can ping people and take them to your website?
But where would we ping them? What, on their browser?
Yeah, so you can sign up for notification and it basically open a page when you...
I mean, it's an option, but how many people use those? I'd be interested to know. I know I always say block, but I think also what we're trying to do, we've got a huge audience, but it's quite transient, and we're trying to build a relationship. And I think an app really gives you that. You know, it's there, it's constantly sort of in your pocket, and the idea is, you know, we're going to try and sort of actually build a genuine relationship with our users to give them what they want and when they want it. You know, me personally as well, notifications, I turn them off most of the time, so try to do some innovative things where you can get what you want and we're not kind of being too intrusive.
Yeah, and I think I would add to that as well. You know, it was the notifications, but it wasn't just, you know, isn't it just nags you every now and then and says come back to the app. It's about that personalised content, and that content that's always there on your home screen. You know, it's like something that you are interested in is happening. Come back and look at that content. So it wasn't that we want notifications, so let's build an app. It was more, we want an app, we want to personalise that content, we want to use the engaging features of an app, and notifications is one of the key things that will bring quite easily.
There's a similar question to that on Slido. Since you had all web pages, did you consider using them to make PWAs, progressive web apps?
We've looked at it. Just feel don't really hitting the premium mark that we're trying to go for. I mean, you know, we've got a long way to go with Team Talk, and it's been as you can see, quite a learning experience, not just for me, but for the whole business. But they're frowned upon by the stores anyway, aren't they? A little bit. But also, like I said, we're trying to build something that's going to be here for a long time. So we feel like it's worth the investment. So we want to do it properly. That's kind of the viewpoint, I think.
Yeah, and from my perspective, I mean, I was involved after that decision might have been made. We're already building native apps, but you know, I haven't seen PWAs yet achieve that promise on both platforms equally. You know, I was involved in a project probably back end of last year where, you know, like, there's all these new changes and iOS is going to support it now, and it didn't, and they kind of flipped back away from that. So again, you know, like the things of being in the App Store, being fully supported, getting that kind of first party, you know, device support, particularly on iOS, still does bring more engagement. One day maybe that will change, but I don't think that's quite there yet. If you don't need to pull that engagement lever quite as much, then PWA is a good choice. You know, so if you've got an audience of people who perhaps have to use the app for something, so, you know, like maybe it's part of a bigger SaaS system, maybe it's your kind of in-house HR system or something like that where people have got to use it, that's a great way of not having to take on all that extra cost and burden that comes with building native apps. But for something like this where it has to be shiny and it has to work equally on both platforms, then I think, yeah, native is the way forward.
Okay, do you do any sort of cohort analysis with any like product releases or feature releases to sort of like observe engagement levels? Any like learnings there that you do that?
Not quite yet. We've been focusing on getting something that's working and out the door to prove to the business that we can do it. We've just started tracking some data points around teams and news and things like that, but for that particular use case, we're really focusing on what's coming next with the MDK. We're using a dedicated iterable, what sort of product, what do we call that? So we're using something called iterable in the business that is really going to sort of out-profile our users and create, you know, that visibility so we can really start tailoring, giving you what you want on the assumption that you give us the permissions to do that tracking. So it's on the radar, we know it's important, but it's not something that we've baked into Team Talk as yet.
Yeah, I think the other thing as well is that until you've got like a really large number of users doing those kind of cohort analysis and A/B tests, they do give you a signal, but you know it's not statistically significant. So at the moment, with the things that we've been doing, it really has been, you know, like let's fix a bug. Oh look, the traffic's gone up. You know, so it has been do a thing, just see that very basic session numbers, weekly active user numbers go up. But yeah, in the future, mixed panel. Probably iterable as well, but mixed panel makes it quite easy, so you can draw those graphs of, you know, like we've got this cohort of users that have got their notifications switched off, these are switched on, we've introduced this new feature, what's the difference between those, so you can start to really kind of build those product hypotheses and then test them.
Sorry, just to follow up. When you say this analysis is not statistically significant, at what level of like user base or level would you be confident that this analysis are statistically significant?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, actually. So I think in a session that was run by Google that I was in on another project a long time ago, they said 100,000 users. For me, most of the apps that I've worked on have been quite a lot smaller than that. So, you know, kind of working regularly on systems with 50 to 100,000 users, I think that's certainly enough to give you the signal. So you have to be aware that you can't really just be data-led. You know, like you have to use some of the other stuff as well. You have to talk to users, and you have to use some of those other data points. But I think, you know, like we're at much lower numbers than that now, and we can see, did a thing happened. So again, you can take that, you know, you can't say, if I do this thing, then it's going to change my user base by 0.4%. You know, you just don't have that. Your margin for error is just too wide, but you can see the signal.
So my question was, obviously there were a lot of learnings, but if there was like one thing you could take away from it and make sure you do, if you were doing this again, what would it be?
Don't build an app. No. I'm kidding. That's a good question. I think, so I inherited the app and I kind of sort of took it upon myself to do this thing, and it's kind of evolved from there, and it's sort of a key part of what Nick wants us to achieve from a product as a product team anyway, so it's kind of worked out. But I think that the main issues we had really was it wasn't a collaborative thing at the beginning. Like I came in and said, oh, I'll get this thing going, but you know, publishing hadn't really been engaged, so it wasn't really their app, and then we were using, you know, a third party, and we didn't really have any influence. And I think that's been a cause of a lot of the problems, to be honest. You know, if everyone's aligned and we all know we're doing a thing and this is why we're all doing it, it makes it a lot less stressful for me. But that visibility and accountability is really the key thing. So I don't think there's lots of little niggly things you learn as you're publishing apps, and particularly in the App Store, it's a real nightmare sometimes. But I think, yeah, if you're going to build an app, you know, have that why and make sure everybody's aligned and set that crystal clear. Like Nick did the manifesto, that was like someone turning the light on and we could all see what was going on, and it was really helpful. Do all that stuff at the beginning, and it'll save you a lot of hassle down the line.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm touching my microphone. For me, it's slightly different because I'm always kind of a bit of a hand-holding spectator. So many of these lessons that Planet Sport had to learn, I already knew. I think it was important for them to learn some of those things themselves. You know, like if I just come in and said, do this, do that, and you know, like it had all gone smoothly, they would have built that muscle themselves. But really, for me, what I try and instill in people is that you really need to build your tech engine under the hood. So when you're doing any of this product development stuff, you've got to be able to quickly build a feature, make a change, whatever that smallest thing is, release it, measure it. So whether that's metrics or just testing it in the app, measure it, and then iterate from there. Particularly with mobile, you know, as many people here will know, you've got the really long release cycles, you've got to go through the stores, you've got all that. It's hard anyway, so you really need like the engine under the hood to just keep spinning so that you can then do the even harder work of building that product on top of that engine.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Rob. I'm a first-time attendee, so be gentle with me.
Hi, Rob.
I'm just wondering if you investigated any public sector support at all for the cost of developing the app, whether it's Innovate or Leeds Council or West Yorkshire Authority, anything like that?
No, no, we didn't look into that. It was, like I say, there was an opportunity for the business to have their app, and it's kind of evolved from there. And I think there's always looking to get to where the users are and give them the content. And there's lots of challenges, always evolving online. So it's a little bit, we want to do this and be there where the users are, and there's a little bit of, the world's changing, and we need to make sure that Planet Sport's here in another 20 years. So yeah, it was an investment from the business for sort of noble reasons, I guess.
I just wanted to ask, did you enjoy building the app?
We might have different answers to that.
Sometimes, I mean, that Guinness always tastes good on a Friday. So, I think when everything's on fire, you definitely feel the heat, and it's not fun. But yeah, I mean, like building apps, working at Planet Sport, it's good fun. We're building cool stuff that hopefully our users are going to like. I'm a football fan. I like what we're building. Hopefully I'm not too biased with what I'm putting into the machine. Try not to be. But yeah, it's for the most part, it's been good.
Yeah, and I suppose I've got an answer to that question, which is from a slightly different perspective, which is, I've absolutely loved it. So, I mean, we've already established that I seem to thrive on Mike's pain and discomfort, so there's that as well. But for me, as a project, so the very first week I kind of ran sessions with Planet Sport. I did some usual discovery stuff, and I listed out, like maybe 2 or 3 things. Here are the things that you should do next. And then I came back the following week, expecting the usual, that I would be saying those same things for at least 10 weeks. And basically everything was ticked off the list, and they were like, right, next. And I was a bit taken aback. I was like, right, well, I'm going to need a longer list here for the stuff that we're going to work on. But for me as a team, they just take everything on board, just soak it up like a sponge. They're just so keen to learn and improve and do the right thing. So yeah, so for me it's been an absolute blast, especially when it's been really painful for Mike.
Yeah, thanks.
So, I'm just wondering, you mentioned a lot around users. Did you do customer-centric workshops? And you mentioned around the match animations. Did that stem from speaking to users and deciding that's the feature they want next?
Not as much as I would like, to be honest. I don't get access to the users as much as I would like as a product person. But having said that, I do get access to the journalists, at least. They live and breathe it. I mean, James, who's the editor, has been editor for Team Top for 20 years, so he's got a really good understanding of his user base and why they come to the site and what works for them. So I've done a lot of work within the business because I don't necessarily have that direct to the user access, which is, I would love that. Now we're finally getting some visibility with Mixpanel. It's a bit of a revelation, to be honest. So yeah, more of that, but not enough at the moment.
Yeah, I think again there's a great opportunity there because now we have got we've got some users, we've got the visibility, we can see that, and I think there'll be an opportunity there to do some of that really user focused stuff, build it out, and then see the increased impact that you can get from that over and above just well, this sounds like a good feature. So I think that will be one for the future. Yeah,
and I think some of the work I did originally at the beginning was I spoke to a lot of my friends. They're kind of we look at the analytics of the site. My friends who use it or are the kind of people who would like to use it. I interviewed those and sort of created some personas off the back of it, and really sort of tried to always bring things back to the personas that I'd created.
There's a few on Slido. Do you use many web views from the original site, or is it mainly native code in the app built from scratch?
That's a good question. We did until I managed to kill it recently, which was great. So you come onto the site, onto the app, should I say, and we're pulling from a JSON feed and we're rendering it. All the links originally would then, if it had, like, say, Man United, and you clicked on it, it would open an in-app browser and send you to the site, which, from a product perspective, we really didn't like. So you almost had like this double Team Talk header, and it was just a bit nasty. But we did it because we were learning, and as Gabby said early in the presentation, the business was fearful of cannibalisation, and this was kind of a halfway house of, well, if that does happen, which would be a nice problem to have, right? But we weren't sure it was going to happen. It was a bit of a safety net. It's not a great experience in my view. So we've flattened everything, and you just get everything served in everything in the app now.
One final question. Can you tell us more about how you got consolidated goals bureau you showed from such differing opinions?
Gabby?
I just drove it. I just kept, like, people were just kind of different people were shouting different things, and that essentially was my picture of, like, what the strategy needed to be. So yeah, there was a lot of wrangling, a lot of herding of cats, and essentially, it sort of showed it, and that was the strategy. It wasn't really. It was like, right, you've all said these things. I've now written this thing down, and then in future weeks, people would be going off at cross purposes and saying, well, we need to do this and we need to do that. And I would bring this up and just say, look, this is your strategy. So the reason it was on Miro was because we could change it, we could move it. So it was like, are we still doing this or are we changing it? And that would at least bring everybody back onto the same page. So that was kind of the purpose of that. And I mean, it really was, like, step 1, make a plan, step 2, profit. It was, like, it was that, but it was focused and aligned.
I've got one more question just coming. Why were you scared of cannibalisation? Why would it be a bad thing for most of your traffic to come via the app?
Apps are notoriously hard to monetize, really.
Yeah, so what the Chief Product Officer said, so apps are harder to monetize. So Planet Sport have already got a great web audience. They've already got, like, however much traffic it was that Mike said, but, massive numbers. And if all of those people were to then come into mobile, where that ad revenue, that machine that they used to work in, if they all came into that, then it would, like, drop off on the website. And we wouldn't have had a replacement at that point. We didn't have a strategy for that.
And I think if you look at the business as it is, it's really successful. We're the number 1 sports publisher, independent. We're only, like, after Sky and BBC. We're kind of up there, and it works. And everyone knows what they're doing, and it generates profit. And if it's not broke, don't fix it, kind of thing. So there's a little bit of that at play as well. Yeah, but what we've done with Team Talk is, as much as from a technical point of view, learned how to do apps, we've also sort of brought the business on the journey now, and it's been a bit of a culture shift, and it's more excitement for what apps could do for the business, rather than fear and resistance that was there at the beginning. So yeah, it's been good, but hard.
I'm just curious, have you done much work with or been considering using native mobile widgets for iOS and Android? And if so, how's the experience been using those? Or is it a territory that's not been navigated to?
When you mean widgets, do you mean the little cool things you drop on your home screen?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we haven't built any. I have looked into it. I think there's some really cool stuff we could do. There's things in my ideation boards and sort of discovery boards that I've done, but no, we haven't got that far. But yeah, there's some promising stuff that we could do with it, and I don't think it'd be too intrusive either, because what we're doing is sports, and if someone's downloaded our app, you kind of assume it's one of their passions. So having something front and centre on their home screen it's probably not going to be something they're going to grumble about. So, yeah, probably.
Watch the space.
Yeah.
Is that a scoop, is it?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay, okay. One more from Sado. Are you targeting your apps to key new gambling markets, for example, Brazil?
No.
I mean, that's a valid answer.
No. Not yet.
I think we might have a monetisation consultant
Yeah.
in the audience.
But gambling and sports content go together quite well.
I wonder, is there anything you learned from developing a mobile app and fed back into the website in terms of features, in terms of code, in terms of organisation?
Measuring things.
Yeah, but you said sort of measuring things and actually being a bit more data led rather than sort of, we've been there and we know it. Sort of letting the data and the users drive a little bit more. There is stuff going on in the business in terms of upgrading and transforming the sites as well, and I think the approach we're taking with the MDK, and we've got a design system that we're building, is the similar approach that we're now adopting with some of the sites that we're effectively rebuilding and sort of getting ready for the next 10, 15 years. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's stuff that, this happened to me, we should, it wasn't great and I've learned from it and we should think about that from the site. We've just aligned on how we're going to build sites and apps that complement each other and not compete. Where things that I have learned, that I have shared, has been with Partner Media, our B2B arm. So they're busy working. They do work with a number of betting and gaming businesses and also sports broadcasters, and they're getting a lot of interest, and they've built, I think, about 8 apps already. So, if I have a war story, I share it with them, and hopefully they don't feel quite as much pain as I did, to be honest. I'm the canary. So, yeah.
Any more questions? No? Well, let's give Mike and Gabby a round of applause. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Well done.